The war had been one-sided for too long. The Xyrath Dominion's war machine swept through systems like an unrelenting tide, leaving entire civilizations crushed beneath its might. Their fleet loomed on humanity's borders, and Earth's defenses, valiant but outmatched, were crumbling. The only advantage humanity had left was its ingenuity, and General Adrian Kell was counting on it. In a dimly lit briefing room buried deep within Earth's last military stronghold, a group of individuals sat in silence. They were the best humanity had to offer, not in brute strength, but in precision, adaptability, and a knack for disappearing without a trace. These were the Silent Warriors, a covert unit shrouded in secrecy, trained in the art of shadow warfare. General Kell's voice broke the silence. Ladies and gentlemen, the Xyrath think they know us, think they've already won, but they've never seen what we're capable of when we step out of the light. A hologram flickered to life above the table, displaying a massive Xyrath dreadnought. Its sleek, spiked hull radiated menace, bristling with weaponry capable of leveling continents. This is the Dominion Fist, one of their largest warships. In 3 days, it will spearhead an assault on Titan, our last functioning shipyard. If we lose Titan, we lose the war. The team exchanged glances, their faces hard and unreadable. Captain Talia Vren leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. "What's the plan, sir?" Cal's expression hardened. "You'll infiltrate the ship, bypass its security, and plant charges on their primary reactor. The goal is simple: disable the ship before it reaches Titan. You'll have no reinforcements, no support, and no second chances." Talia nodded. "We've trained for worse." As the briefing ended, the team filed out, their demeanor unshaken. In the dim corridors of the base, Talia gathered her squad. Ramirez, the demolition expert with a sharp wit, Nico, the tech savant who could hack anything with a pulse, and Kira, the silent scout who moved like a shadow. Each had their role, and each understood the stakes. 3 hours later, they had boarded the Spectre, a stealth dropship equipped with experimental cloaking tech. The launch bay buzzed with activity as engineers performed last-minute checks. Talia stood at the helm, reviewing the mission details on her datapad. Her heart pounded, not with fear, but with anticipation. This was their first mission, the culmination of years of training and sacrifice. Failure wasn't an option. The Spectre launched, slipping undetected past the Xyrath patrols. The void of space stretched endlessly around them, cold and indifferent. Inside the ship, the team prepared in silence, each lost in their thoughts. Kira sharpened her blade, Ramirez muttered a prayer, and Nico tapped furiously on his console, refining their infiltration route. As the massive silhouette of the Dominion Fist came into view, Talia gave the final command. "Remember, we're ghosts. We strike, and they'll never know what hit them." The Spectre engaged its cloaking field, and the Silent Warriors descended into the shadows. The Dominion Fist loomed in the void like a monstrous leviathan. Its dark hull shimmered with energy shields, bristling with turrets and antenna arrays that scanned relentlessly for any signs of intrusion. Despite its imposing defenses, the Silent Warriors approached undetected, their stealth ship hugging the dreadnought's blind spots. Inside the Spectre, Talia reviewed the plan one last time. "Kira, you lead the advance. Ramirez, stay on her 6 and secure the charges. Nico, you're with me on systems override. Remember, we're on the clock. Once those charges are set, we've got 7 minutes to extract. No heroics." The team nodded in unison, their focus razor-sharp. The Spectre latched onto a maintenance hatch on the ship's underside, and the cloaking field shimmered off as the docking clamps engaged. Ramirez worked quickly, cutting through the hatch with a plasma torch. A faint hiss escaped as the inner seal broke, and the team slipped into the dreadnought. The maintenance corridors were tight and dimly lit, a stark contrast to the cavernous warship's exterior. Kira moved ahead, her steps silent, her shadow blending into the gloom. She signaled an all clear, and the team followed. Every sound, every metallic creak and hum of the ship felt amplified in the oppressive silence. Nico's voice came through the comms. I've tapped into their local security grid. We're good for now, but these guys don't mess around. One misstep and their drones will swarm us. Noted, Talia replied, her voice steady. Keep us invisible. They navigated through the labyrinthine corridors, bypassing patrols and automated sentries with surgical precision. At one junction, Kira froze mid-step, holding up a fist. The team stopped instantly. Ahead, a Zyreth patrol marched past, their insectoid forms illuminated by faint blue lights. The warriors crouched in the shadows, their cloaking suits blending seamlessly into the walls. Patrol passed, Kira whispered after a tense moment. Move. Ramirez muttered under his breath as they advanced. These bugheads have no idea what's coming. Minutes later, they reached the reactor chamber, a towering cathedral of machinery pulsating with raw energy. Ramirez began unpacking the charges while Talia and Nico moved to the control console. Nico's fingers danced over his datapad as he worked to disable the ship's detection grid. I need a minute, Nico said, his voice tense. This system's more advanced than Intel suggested. Talia scanned the room, her instincts on high alert. Make it 30 seconds. As Nico worked, Ramirez planted the last charge, his movements practiced and efficient. Charges are set. Ready on your word, Captain. Then, a sharp beep echoed from Nico's datapad. His face paled. We've got a problem. Their AA detected the intrusion. They're locking down the ship. Red warning lights flared, and the hum of approaching drones filled the air. Talia didn't hesitate. We're out of time. Kira, secure the exit. Ramirez, get ready to blow the charges on my signal. Move. The silent warriors sprang into action, weaving through the shadows as the first wave of Zyreth drones descended. The mission had just turned into a deadly game of cat and mouse, and survival depended on their every move. Red strobe lights bathed the reactor chamber in a hellish glow as the Zyreth drones swarmed. Sleek, arachnid-like constructs, they moved with unsettling precision, their razor-sharp limbs clinking against the metal floors. The silent warriors melted into the shadows, relying on their cloaking suits to evade detection. Talia's voice was calm, her orders decisive. Kira, secure the path to extraction. Ramirez, stay close to Nico. I'll hold off the drones. Move. Kira vanished into the corridor, her life form blending seamlessly with the dim light. Ramirez slung his rifle across his back and grabbed Nico by the shoulder. Come on, genius. Time to earn your keep. Nico barely had time to scoop up his gear before Ramirez pulled him toward the exit. The demolition expert kept his weapon trained on the rear, covering their retreat as the first drones skittered into the chamber. Talia stayed behind, her pulse rifle raised. The first drone searchlight swept over her position, but she was already moving, a silent shadow darting between machinery. She aimed and fired, the pulse blast striking the drone's central core. It collapsed with a sharp screech, sparking violently as it hit the floor. The sound drew more drones. Talia cursed under her breath, so much for subtlety. She sprinted after her team, her boots barely making a sound against the metallic floor. The comms crackled as Kira's voice came through. Path to extraction isn't clear. 2 patrols converging on the access point. Need a diversion. Talia replied without hesitation. Hold position. We're almost there. Meanwhile, Ramirez and Nico reached the junction just before the extraction point. The sounds of clanking metal and alien chittering echoed through the corridors, growing louder. Ramirez handed Nico a compact charge. Set this on the wall. We'll give them a light show they won't forget. Nico's hands shook as he worked. You know, I signed up to hack terminals, not blow stuff up. Welcome to the front lines, Ramirez said with a grim smile. Kira reappeared from the shadows, her blade dripping with the oily fluid of a downed Zyreth soldier. Patrols are moving faster than expected. We need that distraction now. Nico finished setting the charge and ducked behind cover. Ramirez triggered the detonation, and the corridor ahead erupted in fire and smoke. The shockwave sent the nearest drones into disarray, buying precious seconds. Move now! Talia's voice cut through the chaos as she regrouped with the team. They bolted down the corridor toward the Spectre. The ship's access hatch opened as they approached, but a deafening roar stopped them in their tracks. From the smoke, a larger Zareth drone emerged, its bulk nearly filling the passage. Unlike the others, this one carried an integrated plasma cannon, its barrel glowing ominously. "Get to the ship," Talia ordered, raising her rifle. "I'll handle this." "No way, Captain," Ramirez shot back, leveling his own weapon. "We do this together." The silent warriors prepared for their deadliest fight yet, the clock ticking relentlessly as the charges planted on the reactor counted down. The hulking Zareth drone, its plasma cannon wearing to life, towered over the silent warriors. Its insectoid eyes glowed with malevolent intelligence, and its movements were unnervingly precise. It wasn't just a drone, it was a hunter. Talia gritted her teeth and took a step forward, her pulse rifle aimed squarely at its core. "Ramirez, Kira, suppressive fire. Nico, get that hatch prepped for launch. We don't have time to play with this thing." The team sprang into action. Ramirez unleashed a flurry of high-caliber rounds, each shot aimed at the drone's joints. Sparks flew as the rounds connected, slowing its movements but failing to penetrate its reinforced plating. Kira darted to the side, her cloaking suit flickering as she drew its attention with precise strikes from her blade, aiming for weak points in its armor. The drone roared, the plasma cannon charging to a searing blue. Talia dove to the side, just as a blast scorched the floor where she had stood moments earlier. The heat from the shot left the air shimmering, and the corridor walls warped under its intensity. "Nico!" Talia barked into the comms as she fired another burst. "Status on that hatch?" "I'm working on it." Nico's voice crackled back, panicked but determined. His hands flew over his datapad, overriding the Spectre's lockdown protocols. "Give me 60 seconds." "We don't have 60 seconds." Ramirez shouted as he narrowly avoided the swing of a clawed appendage. He lobbed a grenade at the drone's legs, the explosion sending shrapnel in all directions. The blast staggered the drone, but it quickly recalibrated, its cannon swiveling toward Ramirez. Kira seized the opening. With a burst of speed, she vaulted onto the drone's back, her blade plunging into a seat near its neck. The drone screeched, its movements becoming erratic as it tried to shake her off. "I've got its attention," Kira shouted. "Hit it now." Talia didn't hesitate. She sprinted forward, planting a magnetic charge directly on the drone's exposed core. "Ramirez, cover." The demo expert unleashed another volley, keeping the drone distracted as Talia and Kira fell back. "Fire in the hole," Talia shouted, triggering the charge. The explosion ripped through the drone, sending pieces of its chassis flying. It collapsed in a heap, its plasma cannon sparking uselessly. "Good work," Talia said, panting. "Nico, tell me we're green." The hatch to the Spectre hissed open just as the timer on the reactor charges hit 2 minutes. "We're green," Nico yelled. The team scrambled aboard the ship, Kira pulling up the rear. The hatch sealed behind them, and the Spectre launched into the void just as a chain reaction erupted within the Dominion fist. The view from the cockpit was breathtaking and terrifying. A massive explosion rippled through the dreadnought, splitting it in half. Talia exhaled sharply. "One down. Let's hope they don't see us coming next time." The Spectre slipped away from the blazing remains of the Dominion fist, cloaked and silent against the star-speckled void. Inside, the silent warriors regrouped in the mission bay, their adrenaline still pumping. Kira slumped against the wall, her face streaked with soot. "Well, that was a bit louder than planned." Ramirez chuckled darkly, inspecting his gear. Loud gets the job done. That thing was a beast. Talia's gaze lingered on the holographic map projected in the middle of the room, showing their position relative to the Dominion fleet. The destruction of the dreadnought had triggered a significant ripple in the enemy's formation. Patrol routes shifted, and encrypted communications buzzed with frantic activity. "We bought ourselves time," she said, her voice low but resolute. "But they'll be hunting us now. We can't count on stealth to get us through every time." Nico walked in, clutching his datapad. "You're not kidding. I intercepted their comms. The Zareth Command is deploying specialized hunter-killers. They know we're here, and they're not pulling punches." Talia studied the map intently, her mind working through their options. "Then we change the game. If they expect us to run, we hit them again, harder this time." "Nico, what's the next high-value target in this sector?" Nico hesitated, then expanded the hologram. "There's a Dominion logistics hub on Gora's Prime. It's heavily fortified, a central node for their supply lines. If we take it out, we cripple their fleet's ability to sustain prolonged operations in this region." Ramirez grinned. "A logistics hub, that's my kind of playground." Kira crossed her arms, her tone skeptical. "And how exactly do we get through heavy fortifications with a fleet of hunter-killers breathing down our necks?" "We turn their strength into a weakness," Talia said, a plan forming. "If they want to hunt us, we let them, and lead them straight into a trap." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Nico was the first to speak. "You're proposing we bait a Dominion fleet into following us to Gora's Prime?" Talia nodded. "They'll be so focused on catching us, they won't see the real attack coming. We'll coordinate with resistance forces on the planet to strike the hub while their attention is on us. It's risky, but it's our best shot." Kira smirked, her skepticism fading. "High stakes, high rewards. I'm in." Ramirez slapped the table. "Let's make some noise." Nico sighed, already pulling up schematics of the logistics hub. "This is either brilliant or suicidal. Probably both." Talia straightened, her resolve solidifying. "We've faced worse odds before. Prep the ship and weapons. We leave in 30. As the team dispersed to ready themselves, Talia lingered by the map, her eyes fixed on the pulsing red marker over Gora's Prime. The Silent Warriors had struck a blow against the Dominion, but the war was far from over. Their next move would determine not just their survival, but the fate of countless lives still under the Zirath's iron grip. The Spectre shot through the blackness of space, its cloaking system rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of stars. The plan was simple: lead the Dominion fleet into a deadly trap, with Gora's Prime as their unwitting partner. A planetary base heavily guarded by the Zarath's ground forces. It wasn't just a target, it was a battlefield waiting to be manipulated. Talia stood at the helm, her hands steady as she steered the ship towards the planet's atmosphere. The rest of the team was silent, each member lost in their own thoughts. Ramirez ran diagnostics on their weapon systems, checking for any weaknesses. Kira ran through a mental checklist of stealth tactics. Nico, as usual, buried himself in the data streams, working on the final pieces of the plan. "So we're really doing this?" Kira asked, breaking the silence. "We're about to lure an entire fleet to their death, and hope we're not part of the collateral." Talia's voice was calm, reassuring. "It's the only way we make a real dent in their forces. If we can cripple their supply lines, we'll have the edge we need to push back. We're not just hunting them, Kira. We're making them chase us into a position where they can't win." Kira nodded slowly, her eyes narrowing. "Right. They come for us, and we hit them when they least expect it." Nico's voice cut in from the back of the ship. "Incoming data. The Dominion fleet's making its move. They've redirected 2 dreadnoughts, 4 cruisers, and 2 full wings of fighter drones. All heading in our direction. We have maybe 30 minutes before they reach the outer rim of Gora's Prime's atmosphere." Talia's grip tightened on the controls. Then it's time to go dark. Kira, Ramirez, get ready for the extraction phase. Nico, make sure we can use the planet's interference to our advantage. The team moved into position, slipping into the tight spaces they knew best. The Spectre coasted toward Gora's Prime's orbit, its cloaking system fully activated, blending perfectly with the shadows of the planet's rings. The Dominion fleet was closing in, and Talia could feel the tension in her bones. They were about to take the fight to the enemy on their terms. "All right, they're in range," Nico said, eyes flicking over his datapad. "I've triggered the planetary defense grid, just enough to mask our signature, but not enough to alert them. The drones will scatter, thinking we've already slipped past them." "Good," Talia replied, her voice steady. "Let's bring them in." As the Dominion ships neared, Talia pushed the Spectre toward the edge of the atmosphere, just within the reach of Gora's Prime's magnetic field. The fleet's sensors were already being disrupted by the planet's interference, but they hadn't yet realized that the bait they were chasing was still within their grasp. The Zareth dreadnoughts moved in formation, methodical and lethal, like a pack of wolves hunting a wounded prey. Talia could almost hear their thoughts. "It's over. We've got them." But they didn't know what was coming. Kira's voice crackled through the comms. "We're in position. Extraction team is ready." Then it's showtime. Talia flipped a switch, and the Spectre's cloaking system flickered briefly before it re-engaged with full force, turning them into nothing more than a ripple in the dark sky. But what came next was anything but silent. In an instant, the team detonated a series of EMP charges hidden within the nearby asteroid field. The shockwave pulsed out, destabilizing the entire fleet's electronic systems and sending the Zareth ships into chaos. Fighter drones spun out of control, their communication grids short-circuiting. The Zareth had just become their own worst enemy. Talia exhaled sharply. "Move in. Take the fleet apart from the inside." And with that, the Silent Warriors did what they did best. They made the Zareth regret underestimating humanity. The Spectre rocketed through the chaos, its engines silent as it slinked between the disoriented Dominion dreadnoughts. The Zareth fleet had been torn apart by the EMP pulse, their advanced systems failing one by one. Fighters drifted aimlessly, their pilots struggling to regain control, while the massive warships faltered, their weapons offline and shields fluctuating erratically. It was a perfect storm. Talia's voice was crisp over the comms. "Nico, Kira, Ramirez, let's finish what we started. Time for Phase 2. Without waiting for a reply, the Silent Warriors sprang into action. Kira's form blurred as she activated her cloaking device, slipping silently into the heart of the nearest Dominion cruiser. Ramirez followed, his heavy boots thudding as he deployed cutting charges along key sections of the enemy ship's hull. Nico, perched at the tactical console, worked his magic, reprogramming enemy comms to feed false signals and disorient the crew even further. Talia watched it all unfold on her holo display, a cold smile tugging at her lips. Every move had been meticulously planned, every trap set. They were the hunters now. The Dreadnought's bridge was a scene of frantic activity. Zareth officers bellowed orders, but their voices lacked conviction. Their fleet was crippled, and their superiority had been shattered. One officer, his face twisted in panic, slammed a fist onto the command table. "Where are they? Where are the humans?" he shouted. "Lock down all systems. Prepare for." The words were lost as the ship's core exploded in a blinding flash of energy. Ramirez's charges had done their job. The Dreadnought's propulsion system collapsed, taking out half of its engines in a spectacular chain reaction. Kira emerged from the wreckage, sliding back into the shadows, her pulse rifle glowing faintly. "That one's done," she said softly over the comms. "Next?" Talia's eyes flicked to the remaining targets, the other Zareth warships struggling to regroup in the aftermath of the EMP blast. "Keep moving. We've got one more to go." The plan was working, better than expected, but Talia knew that the clock was ticking. The Dominion might be disoriented, but they weren't done yet. Their command ship was still operational, and if they could regroup, they'd launch a counterattack that would wipe out the Silent Warriors and any hope of a victory. "Get ready," Talia ordered. "We can't afford to let them reorganize." A quiet hum filled the ship as Nico worked his console, locking onto the final Dominion flagship. "I've got eyes on their command ship. The enemy's trying to reroute power, but they won't get it in time." Ramirez moved toward the docking bay, his face lit with a determined glint. "We're taking that one down, too. It's time to finish this." Without another word, the Silent Warriors launched themselves into the fray. They had one last shot to strike at the heart of the Dominion, and this time, they weren't running. The Spectre emerged from the shadows, the Dominion command ship dead in their sights. Its shields were flickering, vulnerable. Talia gripped the controls tightly, pushing the Spectre to maximum speed as the countdown in her mind raced. This was it. "Ramirez, you know what to do," she said, her voice calm but filled with certainty. He nodded without hesitation. Time to turn the tables. As the Spectre accelerated toward the heart of the Dominion flagship, Talia's heart raced, not with fear, but with the anticipation of victory. For the first time in a long while, humanity was on the offensive. "Now, Ramirez, take the shot." And as Ramirez unleashed the full power of the ship's weapon systems, the Spectre's lasers cut through the final Dominion warship like a hot knife through butter. Explosions ripped through its core, and within moments, it was nothing more than a smoldering wreck floating in the void. The Zereth were on the brink of defeat. The remnants of the Dominion fleet floated in the silence of space, shattered and burning, their command ships reduced to glowing wrecks. The Spectre circled the debris field, its cloaking system flickering back to full stealth mode as the Silent Warriors regrouped. The battle was over, but the weight of their success hung heavily in the air. Talia surveyed the destruction, her gaze steely. "We've done it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But this isn't the end, it's just the beginning." Nico, standing at the tactical console, nodded in agreement. "The Dominion's still out there, and they'll rebuild, but this will send a message." Kira's voice came through the comms, sharp and direct. "We've crippled them. Their morale is shot. Now's the time to press, but I'm not letting down my guard until we're back home." Ramirez, ever the optimist, let out a loud laugh. "We're not going home yet. Not until we see the full consequences of what we've done." Talia smiled, the faintest trace of pride in her expression. "Exactly. We've earned some time, but the war isn't won with one strike." She turned her attention to the rest of the galaxy, the future unfolding before her. The Dominion may have suffered a crippling blow, but the ripple effect of their defeat would take time to reach every corner of the war. The Silent Warriors had made history today, but their mission wasn't over. "Start preparing for the next phase," Talia ordered, her voice steady. "This victory might have given us an edge, but the fight goes on. We'll rally the resistance and reclaim what's ours, one system at a time." Kira, ever the pragmatist, was already making her way to the armory. "You can count on me. If we're going to take the fight to them, we need to make sure we've got everything we need. I'll be ready." Nico's fingers flew over his console as he patched into the larger resistance network. "I'll send out the transmission. Word of our victory will spread fast. Once the other cells see what we've done, they'll be more likely to join forces. The Dominion's grip is slipping." Ramirez stood beside Talia, looking out at the stars. "It's amazing. We've made it this far, but I've got a feeling the biggest battles are still ahead of us." Talia's gaze softened as she looked out through the viewport. The stars shone brightly ahead, their light a reminder of the countless lives that still needed saving. Humanity had proven itself once again. Against impossible odds, the Silent Warriors had struck a decisive blow, but the galaxy was vast, and there were still many more worlds to free. Today, we've sent the Dominion a message they won't soon forget. But tomorrow, we take back everything they've stolen. With the fate of entire civilizations hanging in the balance, the Silent Warriors had secured a crucial victory. They had shown that humanity was not just capable of surviving in the face of overwhelming odds, but that they could change the course of the war. The battle for the galaxy was far from over, but the echoes of this victory would reverberate across the stars. The Silent Warriors had changed the war, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Talia stood tall, looking to the horizon. Let's finish this, for humanity. And with that, they moved forward, united and relentless, ready to strike again. The war was theirs to win,